In 2017, I took my first steps into learning digital art. I struggled for many years without any clear directions to guide me and help me improve. Now I'm not an industry veteran by any means. I've never worked at a big AAA studio. I'm just someone who likes to draw, and I've gotten good enough to where people will regularly pay me to make art for them. Over the years, I've watched a lot of art guides and tutorials on things on how to get better, and I think a lot of them, they have an issue that they assume you're either an absolute beginner or you're an industry professional. No one ever really talks about that messy area in the middle. So today, I'll be sharing with you guys some simple but powerful tricks and ideas to close that skill gap. Okay, so the first thing I want to talk about is resolution. And so you want to think about what is the purpose of the art you're about to create. So whether it's for personal use, social media, maybe even a computer wallpaper, just something you want to keep in mind while you're starting your art. I think a good place to start is always going to be around 3000 pixels, because the thing is, if you work in a higher resolution, you can always shrink it down to a smaller size if you needed to, and it should still look okay. This tip might be a little bit on the obvious side, but it was something that I didn't understand starting out, so I just want to make sure you guys don't end up like how I was. As you draw more, you'll start to get a feel for what size works best for you. Just don't go overboard. Okay, the next thing I want to talk about is lines. So if you're first starting out with digital art, you're probably going to run into this habit where you're sort of second guessing and just sort of nudging all the lines you make. And I get it. I've been there. You can see some examples here on the screen that I'm going to share with you. And the best advice I can give you is to just trust the process with this. It'll get easier as you go, I promise. One way to speed this up is to practice gesture drawings, and so that's when you look at image reference and then you try to draw out the pose as fast as possible, or with the amount of time that you have allowed. Usually 20 to 30 seconds is a good place to start. So, and then also, if you are just starting out with digital art, so let's say you just got a tablet, the biggest piece of advice I could give you is you want to take your computer mouse and just seal it away for a few days and just do everything exclusively on your computer with your tablet. And what this will do is it'll help you build that muscle memory. And so as you do it more, it's gonna suck. It's gonna suck. You're gonna nudge around the screen just to open up certain windows, but it'll build that muscle memory for you to help you go about drawing that much better. This is probably gonna be my most recommended section to pay attention to. So with poses, you want to try really hard to avoid that stiff, rigid look, kind of like a Minecraft character, how they can't bend their joints. So if you're drawing a standing pose, you want to try to give it some sort of what's the word I'm looking for? Contrapposto? I don't know if I'm saying it right. One second.
Contrapposto.
Contrapposto. In a nutshell, this is just when you draw a figure with their weight shifted on one leg as opposed to both. It looks better because it's more natural. If you're ever out in public, it's very rare you're gonna see someone standing in an A pose, if ever, really. Outside of standing poses, to improve the quality of your drawing, you can use what's called a line of action. A line of action is just an imaginary line within a pose, and it sort of helps define the gesture of the drawing, and it makes it look more lifelike. Similar to the gesture drawing I spoke of earlier, you can look at figures and practice drawing the line of action within them on your own to get a better sense of what I'm talking about. Practicing posing is a great way to improve your drawing immediately, and even animation if you want to go that route too. This is an important one, and this section's going to talk about colors. You'd think it'd be as simple as coloring red objects red and dark green objects dark green, but I've come to learn over the years that it's a bit deeper than that. I actually have a funny story for you guys. I tried really hard to find the image to show you guys, but when I was attending college for game development, I had a class where we had to texture a model. And this drawing right here is a pretty accurate representation of how my model looked. And the instructor at the time, I remember him making fun of me because he kept asking me, why did I make the nipples purple? Okay, so what was the point of me telling you guys that? The lesson is that colors can look different depending on the relationship of colors around them. So for instance here, this is one of my favorite optical illusions. If you look here at A and B, it looks like A is darker than B, but when we look at the colors inside our image editing program, we can see they're exactly the same. So here's a trick that'll make your colors more unified. First, you want to find a dominant color in your artwork, and so for example with my texture drawing, I'm gonna say it's this apricot color for the skin. You want to add a new layer. Most likely you could clip it, and you want to use the color mode in whatever application you're using. So you'll just take that color and apply it over your image, and then you can adjust the opacity of it to change the strength. Just play with the amount until you get to a result that you like. And there, your texture professor can't make fun of you anymore. Here's a more practical example. So if you're creating an illustration and you have a background, you can take the average color of the environment and apply it over your drawing. If you don't feel like doing that and you're drawing from an image reference, you could just bring your reference image into your drawing application and use the eyedropper tool, and then you could just copy the colors as you see them. This section just covers what we call color theory, but I think all of that's better saved for an entire video on its own. This section, this might be the main reason that most of you click the video for, and it is shading. I think a lot of people with art, they view shading as that one aspect of it that truly takes it to the next level, and that's where it's where your images really start to come to life because you start to give it that depth, making it more realistic. For this first example, I'm gonna use one of my first pieces of art, and then I'll talk about the problems and how to go about fixing them. So I think most of us, when we think of shading, we will just find the color that we want to shade, and then we'll pick a color that's slightly darker than the one we've chosen, and then we'll just use that to sort of fill it in. And then another thing, I don't know what it is, but there's just something about the airbrush that people who are just starting out with digital art, we love it. And I thought about it for a while, and I think it's because most people who do digital art, I'm pretty sure they've been in an art class, and then if you guys remember in art class, we had to use these the art stumps, and you know, those white pencil shaped things, and you take them on your pencil drawing, you just sort of smear it across the and you use it to shade in your drawing, and then you look up and the bottom of your hand's dirty. Good times. So The main problem with shading this way is it gives your art this really muddy, just dirty look to it, and it makes it look very unprofessional. You can see this problem in practically all my artwork that I showed off at the start of this video. And you know, if you're okay with that, you know, that's fine. But this video is meant for those of you who want to take your art from looking like this to this as fast as possible. So with shading, there's two types of edges you're going to be using. First, we have soft edges, and then second, we have hard edges. I would argue that having both in your art makes it that much more interesting. So now you're probably thinking, how will I know which type of edge to use in my art? And the best way to figure that out is to use image reference. How can you know how things look if you don't look at things? Personally, I like to put hard edges on the areas that I believe are the darkest. Then I'll add in the soft edges to give it that more 3D look. Then when you put them both together, you have something pretty cool to look at. When the shading's done, that's typically when you could bring in your background and start playing around with light. For example, my reference here, it's got a harsh pink background, while my figure has like a dark purple tone to it. And then I saved the fun part for last, which is the light. If you look at my reference picture here, we can see the brightest lights are behind the figure as well as in her left eye. And with that, you're done. I have one last trick to teach you with shading. I learned this from a book called Creative Illustration by Andrew Loomis. So you want to take your finished picture and you want to put it in grayscale. If you can squint your eyes and still make out your picture clearly, then you've done a great job. In the book he says, if it looks good in black and white, then it'll look good in color. You tell him, Andrew. This section right here, this is a cool one. If your art could be viewed as food, then think of this one as the seasoning. So in this section, I want to talk about depth and contrast. Those words might sound intimidating, but I promise you it's not. And I'm going to help you break it down. Making a quick little illustration here to help demonstrate. So in a nutshell, objects that are closer to the viewer are going to have more contrast, and then things that are further away are going to have less. So in my picture here, we're going to have the foreground, the middle ground, and then the background. So what you want to do now is inside whatever program you're using to draw, you want to find the contrast tool, and then what I like to do is, starting from the background, I like to lower the contrast and then work my way forward. So I'll go background to middle ground to foreground. The value that you lower the contrast with the middle ground should always be less extreme than the background, since it's going to be closer. Similar, no. In addition to, we can use the blur tool, and what this will do is this will help you identify your focal point. In most drawings and illustrations, if there's a character, the focal point's usually going to be on their face. So that'll be the point that you want your viewer to see first. So because I want my viewer to look at the face as the focal point, I'm going to blur the elements around it. It's going to be a focus around the background and foreground elements, but also I'm going to put it here on this this arm cannon because I want it to look like it's pointing at you. And so the effect is like if you take your hand and just sort of like put it in front of your face while you're looking at the screen, you'll see it's like kind of blurry. I know it's pretty stupid and silly, but I think it drives home the effect I'm trying to create here. Using the selection tool in whatever program you're using, it's perfect for these changes. Isn't it awesome how just a few quick and simple edits can make your artwork that much more interesting? So I covered all the main ideas I wanted to talk about in this video, but you can view these next two I have for you as a bonus. First one I want to talk about is organizing your layers. As you get more and more familiar with digital art, you're going to get more and more familiar with layers. And it's a good idea to have some type of hierarchy in the way which you work with them. Because there'll be times where you're working on something and then you leave it and come back a week or two later. And if your layers aren't organized, you're going to be completely lost. For example, of one of my early artworks that you guys have seen already in this video, let's say if I wanted to change the hair color, I have no idea where to start looking for it because I have so many layers, and starting out, I had no idea how important it'd be to sort them out. If you can, please take advantage of using folders and naming them appropriately. Lastly, I want to talk about custom brushes. So if you're just starting out, you probably don't know much about this, but in almost all art applications, there's a way for you to make your own unique brush to get a desired effect. For example, here I have a brush that I use to make clouds, and it makes my life just so much more easy because of the unique settings I have for it, as well as the texture. You could experiment with making your own brushes, but also a lot of places and artists, they have their own unique brushes that you can copy and use for your own work. Try some out and see what works for you. That covers everything. If you made it this far, I appreciate you for watching the entire thing. This was definitely the longest tutorial I've ever done, and a lot less editing went into it. I kind of wanted to just make a video where I can just blab and be myself. So there wasn't really a script for it. If there's any other topics you guys would like me to cover, please let me know in the comments. And this video was a lot of fun. I'm very thankful for all the new eyes I've had on my channel these past few months, and I'm looking forward to making 2026 my biggest year on YouTube yet. So if I don't upload another video before then, you guys have a Merry Christmas, and I'll see you in the next one. See ya.